Dear Mr. Orban, Mr. Strache, Mr. Wilders, Mrs. Farage and Trump, Ms. Le Pen, Ms. Petri and others, we have to talk. There are so many things I would like to share with you, much more than I can cover in 15 minutes. So where do I start? Given Brexit, where human migration was one of the most important factors for those who voted in favor, xenophobic statements of a US presidential candidate, a man whose country's history and success are based on migration, or the fact that my own home country, Austria, currently tries hard to abandon the Geneva Convention, I feel like I should start by asking, who are we? I want to ask you this question because I think you all know a lot about the word we and how to use it, particularly how to oppose it to the they. Those others you inherently exclude every time you're talking about our values, our culture, and our society. Since I thought very differently than you, I spend a lot of time thinking about who we are, or who you think we are. I wanted to understand you, but the more I thought about it, the more I disagreed with you. So let me show you who I think we are. Early in human history, people started to group up. From an individual perspective, this made a lot of sense because together one's stronger than alone, and if you're attacked by a wild animal, you'd better be in company. Back then, the motivation for forming groups was obviously more individualistic. People did so because it was good for themselves. Here it is, the initial we. Fast forward to the 18th century, the beginning of the industrial age. The huge success of capitalism due to the division of labor led to a shift in the way people were thinking about society and therefore about the we. Collectivism became the new guiding culture. The rights, the goals, the problems, even the identity of individuals weren't as important as the rights, the goals, the problems, and the identity of the group one belongs to. Great minds like Jean-Jacques Rousseau even tried to unlink freedom from individuality, constructing a hypothetical society in which the only true value is the common good. For such a society to work, individual interests need to be replaced by a common will, and individual identities have to cease to exist for the benefit of the identity of the group we belong to. We are no longer part of the group, we are the group. Individuality isn't tolerated, and with individuality, there goes differentiation. But let's take these thoughts and apply them to one of the most important topics of our present, human migration, and with it integration. If you Google the term integration, what you will find is that it stems from the Latin word integratus, which means recreated, started from scratch, or haven't been made whole. However, if you are talking about integration, what you really mean is something entirely different. What you mean is that those others who want to join our society out of whatever reason, need to get rid of whatever differentiates them. They need to throw away their individuality, and with their individuality, their identity. But let me tell you something. If evolution told us one lesson, then that everything's about differentiation and the capacity to adapt to change. Just last month, I attended a panel discussion where the CEO of a major Austrian telecommunications provider was asked the question what he thinks about the future, whether there would be one constant, one thing we can rely on in this ever-changing world. And you know what he said? He said, the only thing that won't change is change. Well, he said that because he realized that in the business world, differentiation has become what information was in the 2000s and what productivity was in the 90s, but that's business, not politics. And I also see the dark side of differentiation. Differences are difficult, they are complex. They need to be understood. Sometimes they even require a change in our behavior or the way we think. Trust me, I know. I founded an online job platform for refugees together with a young Muslim Iraqi woman and an Austrian software developer from the countryside. But the thing is, people like easy, and collectivism is easy. It is easy to create a world of black and white by breaking everything down to the we and the they. It is easy to blame them for the fact that there are not enough jobs, or that we make debts on the shoulders of future generations, or for crimes committed. It is not us. It is them, because they are not us. For some, this might sound terrifying. But what really terrifies me is if you manage to create a world, a society where everyone's the same, because in such a society, no one sees the world differently. No one sees the world how it is. There is only one reality, and this is a reality in which they have no place. But today, I'm not here to complain. I'm also here to share my thoughts and to help you understand who I think we are. One of the social enterprises I founded within the last years, as I mentioned it before, Refugeeswork. It's an online job platform for people who had to flee their home country. So I dare to say that I saw firsthand the real problems of migrants, which is why I would like to offer you 3 simple steps on how we could convert migration, which you portray as an unsurmountable burden, to a huge chance. Dear Mrs. Orban, Strache, Wilders, Farage and Trump, Ms. Le Pen, Ms. Petri, and others, I hope you're still listening. The first step is to abolish legal and bureaucratic barriers. Well, in my opinion, the purpose of a government is to create and ensure an environment in which individuals, and therefore society as a whole, can develop and prosper. I do not think that the government or certain individuals should impose their unfortunately more and more populistic views on society, limiting individual freedoms of people by, for instance, preventing migrants from going to school, university, or work. By building legal and bureaucratic barriers while at the same time nurturing negative stereotypes and fear and cutting social benefits. Yes, the pace of migration needs to be controlled to a certain extent. But if we think about the people who are already here with us, I'd recommend to grant them free access to education and the labor market without pointless restrictions. The second step is to provide free language courses. Communication is the basis of every culture, and without communication, society cannot exist. Therefore, communication barriers are the biggest obstacles for integration. Acknowledging language as the means for communication, free language courses from the first day are not only a good idea, they are necessary. And if some might argue that we invest money in people who might only be with us temporarily, I can assure you, the costs we will save in the end due to better integration of those who will stay with us will be substantial. I have seen, and there are many examples who prove that point. But communication barriers are not only founded in language differences, but also in cultural differences, emotional barriers, and stereotypes. Which brings me to the last and maybe the most important point. Fight ignorance and unawareness towards difference. Remember the part of this letter where I told you what terrifies me the most? The society where everyone's the same, living their lives in a bubble sealed off of reality? Well, if you look at constituency profiles of voters after elections, what you will find is, and I think we can call it a rule, that people in areas with hardly or no migrants are the people who complain the loudest about migration. It is those people who voted the AfD in Germany, in Mecklenburg-Vorpommern, or Norbert Hofer here in Austria. It's the same people who truly believe that migrants are simultaneously taking our jobs and living lazy lives from social security. Well, I believe if we explain why people from other cultures act in a certain way, or even better, if we manage to bring them to a table, and if we take the effort to do this correctly, potential conflicts won't be a big deal. Or at least we can find common ground and accept our differences. Well, for some this might sound naive, but what I see with our clients at Refugeeswork is a daily proof that it works. In the end, I want to recall the words of the CEO who said, "The only thing that won't change is change." Well, I can assure you something else. Globalization, digitalization, increased mobility of individuals, and factors like detrimental demographic development of Western countries will lead to more migration on a global scale. So the question for me is not whether there will be more migration in the future or how we can avoid it, because we cannot. The questions we should ask ourselves are, how can we deal with migration to create a world in which diversity is not seen as a burden, but the leverage for the common good? Who are we? Or more importantly, who do we want to be in the future? What do you think, Mr. Orban, Strache, Wilders, Farage and Trump, Ms. Le Pen, Ms. Petry, and others? Thanks.